In June 2023, Gunna released his fourth album, A Gift and a Curse, just 1 year after his biggest album, DSF Forever. From 2018 to early 2022, Gunna experienced a life that most people could only dream of. Numerous Billboard Hot 100 hits, collabs with the biggest artists in hip-hop, and of course, probably the biggest accomplishment to date, outselling The Weeknd for the top spot on the Billboard 200. However, Gunna's dreams quickly turned into a nightmare in May 2022 when he and his mentor Young Thug were among the 28 people associated with YSL Records who were charged in a 56-count RICO Act indictment. To make matters worse, Gunna was accused of being a snitch after he was released from prison in December 2022 after pleading guilty. In hip-hop, loyalty means everything, so if the allegations were true, this was definitely a bad look for Gunna. This led to most of his peers turning their back on him, including some of his closest friends, like Lil Baby and Lil Durk. Hip-hop fans followed suit and Gunna's career seemed like it was completely over. But fast forward to late 2023 and Gunna's career is still going strong. In fact, he might be bigger now than he ever was. He's got a #1 song on Billboard, and his latest album, A Gift and a Curse, is a massive success, solidifying Gunna as one of the cornerstones of hip-hop. So how did Gunna end up achieving all this success when just as recently as early 2023, his career was all but dead? Gunna, whose real name is Sergio Giovanni Kitchens, awesome name by the way, was born in College Park, Georgia. Growing up, he dealt with everyday hardships that he and his family had to face. I didn't have life that good coming up. I wasn't born with a lot of money. We weren't dirt poor, but we weren't rich. All I knew was struggle. However, that wouldn't hold Gunna back from achieving his dreams, and he started recording music at 13 years old in his friend's garage. His first mixtape, Hard Body, was released in 2013, and although it largely went unnoticed by many hip-hop fans, that didn't stop him from chasing his dreams, and just a few years later, Gunna's life would completely change. In 2015, Gunna was introduced to Young Thug through a mutual friend known as King Troop, who sadly passed away later that same year after being shot 14 times. According to Gunna, this tragedy only brought him and Thug closer as friends. From that moment on, Young Thug took Gunna under his wing as his protege. In 2016, Gunna officially signed to Young Thug's Young Stoner Life Records, or YSL for short. His first ever collaboration was alongside Travis Scott and Gucci Mane for Young Thug's record, Floyd Mayweather. This was absolutely huge for Gunna because not only was he in a song with big artists, but he held his own as well. His first mixtape under YSL Records, Drip Season, was released in October 2016. Next up was Drip Season 2 in 2017 and Drip Season 3 in 2018. While those mixtapes showcased his potential as an artist, they would eventually pale in comparison to what would come next. In October 2018, Gunna released a collab mixtape with Lil Baby called Drip Harder, and this took Gunna's career all the way up. Not only did that project sell 130,000 copies in its first week, but the lead single from the mixtape was Drip Too Hard, and that song went crazy. Seriously, you couldn't go more than 20 minutes without hearing someone playing that song. It peaks at #4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was nominated for Best Rap Song Performance at the 2020 Grammys. With his newfound success, Gunna was now knocking on the door of rap superstardom, but one thing was missing: an album. Fortunately for fans, they didn't have to wait too long because just a few months after Drip Harder, Gunna finally released his debut album, Drip or Drown 2, in February 2019. The album debuted at #3 on the Billboard 200 with 90,000 first-week sales, and while those are solid numbers, Drip or Drown 2 didn't quite live up to expectations. Drip Harder, the Gunna and Lil Baby album, has set a high bar that was almost impossible to reach. However, those expectations would only push Gunna to go even harder. Wanna, Gunna's second album, dropped in 2020, and it finally gave him his first #1 album in the country with 111,000 first-week sales. Later that year, he had one of his biggest songs ever with Lemonade, which was an internet money record, also featuring Don Toliver and Nav. Not only did Lemonade reach #6 on the Billboard Hot 100, but it also has over 1.2 billion streams on Spotify and is certified 4 times platinum. Absolutely massive. Gunna was only catching W's, and he continued with his third studio album, DS Forever. Of course, DS Forever peaked atop the Billboard 200 with 150,000 first-week units, but that wasn't his most impressive feat. No. What was more impressive and equally shocking was the fact that he beat The Weeknd for the top spot that week, and the week after that. Unless you've been living under a rock, then you know The Weeknd is a way bigger artist than Gunna. This shouldn't have even been close what it was, with Gunna edging out the win by only 2,300 units. Wow. If anyone had any doubts about Gunna's place in hip-hop, those doubts were now wiped away. It got to a point where most, if not some people, believed Gunna was a bigger artist than his mentor, Young Thug. Gunna was on top of the world. However, he would soon be at risk of losing everything he worked hard for. In May 2022, Gunna, along with Young Thug and 28 other members of YSL Records, were charged in a 56-count RICO Act indictment. By definition, a RICO Act is a United States federal law that provides for extended criminal penalties in a civil case of action for acts performed as part of an ongoing criminal organization. Getting charged with a RICO is a very big deal, and YSL is being portrayed as a gang disguised as a record label. Prosecutors claimed that not only was Thug a rapper, but also a gang leader who committed horrible crimes. So, what was Gunna's part in all of this? Well, he was charged with 1 count of racketeering. It may not seem too bad, especially compared to what Young Thug was charged with, but Gunna was still at risk of spending decades in prison, all because he was associated with YSL. Unfortunately, he was denied bond multiple times. However, on December 14, 2022, he was released from jail after pleading guilty per the terms of an Alford plea deal. To put it short, an Alford plea allows a defendant to maintain their innocence, but acknowledge that pleading guilty is in their best interest. Thanks to this plea, Gunna was sentenced to 5 years in prison with 1 year commuted to time served and the rest of the sentence suspended, subject to probation conditions including 500 hours of community service. Shortly after his release, Gunna gave a statement saying, "While I have agreed to always be truthful, I want to make it perfectly clear that I have not made any statements, have not been interviewed, have not cooperated, have not agreed to testify or be a witness for or against any party in the case, and have absolutely no intention of being involved in the trial process in any way." Simply, Gunna was implying he never snitched. However, some people in the hip-hop community weren't happy that he took the plea deal. Footage of the plea hearing shows Gunna acknowledging his association with YSL and affirming that the label partially functions as a gang. This made a lot of fans turn their backs on him. They felt like he betrayed Young Thug, the one person who helped his career the most. Close friends and collaborators like Lil Baby, Lil Durk, Meek Mill, and others unfollowed him on Instagram. But Gunna maintained his innocence to the snitch allegations by posting a pic to Instagram with the caption, "People acting like they switching to a side, but it's only one side. Hashtag YSL the label, hashtag free Thug and Yak." Unfortunately, this wasn't enough to convince a lot of people that he was not a snitch. In hip-hop, being labeled a snitch is a sin that can not only ruin your career, but end your life. It's messed up, but that's what happens. He had to move differently once he was out of jail and watch his back at all times. The public lifestyle he had just a year ago had to become more private for the sake of his safety. On top of all that, Young Thug was apparently furious at Gunna for taking the Alford plea deal, and in a leaked phone call with Lil Durk, vowed to drop an album on the same day as Gunna's next project to hurt his sales.
I'm dropping his surprise album on the same day Buddy dropped his album. That shit coming up soon. I need a verse from you. If you feel like replying, if you feel like you want to reply to what that nigga saying or something, man, don't do it. Let it drop it on my album.
Young Thug wasn't playing around as he was recruiting the rap Avengers, i.e. Drake, Travis Scott, Future, Nicki Minaj, etc. to help destroy Gunna. With no major industry support in his corner, Gunna and his next album were facing an uphill challenge. On June 2nd, 2023, Gunna released the song Bread and Butter as the lead single from his 4th album, A Gift and a Curse. On Bread and Butter, not only does Gunna address his 2022 arrest, but also talks about the snitch allegations. Never gave no statement or agreed to take no stand on them. Whatever you people on, then trust me, I'ma stand on it. Lawyers and that DA did some sneaky-ish, I fell for it. All my P's and Q's because this time I'd be prepared for it. He also references former friends that turned against him. Peeping-ish, I'm seeing people fall back. You lame ass people got me as the topic of the chat. You switched on me when you know you in business with a rap. And the boy that's like your brother, and nobody speak on that. Obviously, Gunna had a lot of things to get off his chest, and fans would get to hear more when his album, A Gift and a Curse, finally released the very next week. The album debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200 with 85,000 copies in its first week. While his last few albums certainly had better first week numbers, this was still very impressive for Gunna. Why? Well, for starters, A Gift and a Curse had no features. For the first time in his career, Gunna was alone. It was basically him against the world. Second, he was projected to sell less than 85,000, but surpassed the odds. And last but not least, Young Thug's album, Business is Business, only sold 89,000 copies first week. That's not bad, but when you consider the fact that Thug had all the big names in hip-hop on his project and only sold 4,000 more units than Gunna, well, then you can see why Business is Business was pretty disappointing. Young Thug was the person that everyone chose to side with. So how did Gunna end up with the last laugh? Easy. Gunna's album was just better. His music resonated with audiences because he had something important to share with the world. Fans were invested in his story of dealing with the many obstacles he was facing both in prison and after he got out. Whereas Young Thug had no real substance on his album and was solely focused on just embarrassing Gunna in sales. And yes, I know with Thug being in prison, he couldn't really record any new verses and be hands-on to oversee everything, which may have made his album better, but it is what it is. The next single from A Gift and a Curse, Fukumean, only helped continue Gunna's resurgence. Fukumean became his first solo #1 on Billboard's rhythmic airplay chart and peaked at #4 on the Billboard Hot 100. He really got the last laugh on everyone. Everyone that made fun of his weight before he went to prison, everyone that said he needed features, everyone that said he was nothing without Weezy, the entire industry that turned their backs on him after he was freed, and I'm loving every minute of it. The villain arc is insane. Talent overshadows hate regardless of the situation. This dude can't be denied. Time and time again, we've seen many artists attempt to make comebacks after their career has been derailed. For some, it hasn't worked out, like with Bobby Shmurda and Tekashi 6ix9ine. For others, it has, like with Travis Scott and now Gunna. Do you want to know what separates the two sides? Talent. Both Travis Scott and Gunna are artists who know how to craft bodies of work that their fans can enjoy. Whereas Bobby Shmurda and 6ix9ine may be good for a couple songs, but musically and creatively, they're far behind. As long as Gunna keeps dishing out hit records while staying true to himself, he may just be here for a long time.